Hello everyone. I'll be reporting Module 2 Types of Print Communication Materials, Part 3, consists of parts of news story and the copy format. Here are the learning objectives. First is to discuss the basic parts of news story and the copy format. Next is to understand the parts of news story and know the general guidelines of copy format. And lastly is the discussion. So before I go and discuss my main topic, I want to give a brief description of what is a news story. A news story is a written or recorded article or interview that informs the public about current events, concerns, or ideas. According to Peter Cole, a writer for The Guardian, a news stories are written for the public to tell them what is going on, to inform them, to engage them, to entertain them, to shock them, amuse them, disturb them, and to uplift them. To be able to write a story, we need to understand its basic parts: the lead, the body, and the ending. Again, hello everyone. My name is Dave, and in this video, I will help you have a deeper understanding on the parts of a news story. So let's dive in. The first part of a news story that we're going to discuss is the lead. So what is the lead? It is the opening paragraph that holds the most important details of a news story. In writing a lead, it is important to consider the following things. Attract. It should be able to attract the readers to read the story. Persuade. Persuade the reader to continue reading the story. Make evident. Make every angle of the story evident to the readers and set the mood for the rest of the material to follow. News must be attractive and persuasive for two main reasons. First, the primary goal of news is to inform and engage the readers with vital information. To capture their attention, news must be presented in an engaging manner with a catchy headlines and introductions. Furthermore, persuasion is necessary to convey the story's significance, whether covering social issues, political, or human interest. Story's persuasiveness makes news more relatable and relevant. Well, news is often presented in a straightforward manner to convey information objectively and factually. Setting the mood or tone is crucial in news writing, because it influences how the reader accepts and interprets information. Um, for instance, if I'm going to make an article about a tragic event, adopting a more empathetic tone can convey the gravity of the situation and evoke empathy. Conversely, mm, when reporting on a positive development, adopting an upbeat tone can inspire optimism, right? So, setting the mood entails framing, presenting, and highlighting information to capture and maintain the reader's interests. There are two types of lead: the direct lead and the delayed lead. The first one that we're going to talk about is the direct lead. It gives the important parts of the story in a direct or straightforward manner. This type of lead gives a clear and direct to the point style of storytelling. It is often used in breaking news and flash reports. The most common type of direct lead is the summary lead. Summary lead provides all the important information and it answers the 5 W's and H questions. Here's an example. 500 naturally grown pieces of wood with aggregate volume of 1,150 board feet worth about 25,000 was confiscated inside two mini sawmills at Barangay Alita, Pauban, Quezon last week. Based, based on this example, we can see that it answers some of the W's. The what? The 500 naturally grown pieces of food that was confiscated. Where? Inside two mini sawmills at Barangay Alita, Mauban, Quezon. And when? Last week. So now let's discuss the delayed lead. This type of lead gives the reader an element of suspense by only giving hints of the content of the story. Delayed lead, as its name implies, it does not give important parts of the news directly. It entices the readers by only giving hints of the content of the story. It is usually used in feature stories, and there are five types of delayed lead: the question lead, quotation lead, narrative lead, descriptive lead, and the striking lead. The first type of delayed lead that we are going to discuss is the question lead, an answer to a question which is the basis of a news story. Here is an example. Who will win the title of Mr. and Miss Com 2023? This will be known on September 20, 2023 after the final performance to be held at the Philippine Arena. Next, the quotation lead. From speakers direct words which are very striking and usually quoted from speech, public address, or interview. Here is an example. I'd like to jail parents themselves who are so lax their kids are boosting the crime rate. This statement came from Juvenile Court Judge Smith in releasing a report on the rapid rise in juvenile crime rate. Next, the narrative lead. A narrative lead is a special type of lead that gives the impression that the writer is telling a story as it actually happened. Here's an example. It was a terrifying day for the passengers of Victoria's liner bus when their driver fell asleep while driving on the highway. Next, descriptive lead. It begins the news by providing a clear description of a person, place, or event. Here is an example. Dressed in white Chanel dress and with a Himalayan Birkin worth over 16 million in her hand, the primetime Queen Marin Rivera sure has a lavish fashion lifestyle. Next, last type of delayed lead that we are going to discuss is the striking lead. This lead is striking because the idea presented may be unexpected or surprising. Here is an example. Even if people benefit from the use of Facebook, some people are now losing their time without realizing it. So now we all know the basic types of leads, and we already discussed the first part of a new story. We're now going to the next part. The body. The next part after the lead is the body. Not the body on the screen, but just like that. The body of a news story should also be satisfying. So, what is the body? It is the main section of a news story that holds all the important information. It comes along with more and clear details on what was stated on the lead. Here are some tips for developing the body. First is organize your idea logically. A story should proceed in a natural and chronological order. Sticking to a logical order will make it easier to write the story. Next is tackle one main idea at a time. We don't want to bombard our readers with ideas all at once. It will just create confusion that will lead to lose of interest of the readers. Next is strive for good transitions. A smooth transition will make your story more interesting. Next is use helpful and informative subheads. Make story three-dimensional. The more the real the story seems, the more the readers will care about what happened. Next is don't give personal opinion. Always remember that news should be factual. Just keep your personal opinion to yourself. Maybe you can use it later on your social media post, but not in news making. Next is attribute and cite sources. And lastly is apply the principles of effective writing. Being able to write effectively can help you become a good communicator. All right, let's now proceed to the last part of the news story, the ending. The last part of a news story is the ending. Just like the lead, it is also crucial to write an ending. So, what is an ending? Ending is the final part of the news story wherein main points and important details are summarized so the reader know what to take away from the piece. There are 5 ways on how you can end your story. First is the summary ending. Like the summary lead, the summary ending wraps up the story with the most important facts. It simply ties up the loose ends of the story and points. Next is the climax ending. With the climax ending, the writer focuses on the peak of the event, ironically creating an anticlimactic effect in the reader. Um, this ending is popular in stories written in chronological order, like narrative feature. Next is the stinger ending. With the stinger ending, the writer ends with something totally unsuspected by the reader. The writer uses the body of the story to set up the reader for the unexpected conclusion. The stinger ending is similar to the modern movie trend where the good guy loses out to the bad guy. And lastly is the unending. This type of ending purposely end the limb, creating suspense and interest in the readers. So an ending, paradoxically, the writer purposely ends by emphasizing a key or the unanswered question. All right. So now we are done discussing the parts of a news story. So we are now going to the last item of my report, which is the copy format. So what is a copy format? Articles that are submitted for publication are usually prepared in a standard format called copy. Copy means the text of the report, not any graphics or videos. Copy is a word that is used in the term copyright, which refers to the ownership of the text by the writer. In the conventional form of news writing, all submitted articles are in a form of text or hard copy. But nowadays, this is not strictly followed because we are now living in a digital world. Today, every content are being sent digitally or in the form of soft copy. Editors can now edit the articles or even put comments digitally, which is more convenient, right? And for all our news writing exercises, we will be required to submit them in a copy format. Here are the general guidelines of a copy format. First, articles should be neatly written in a short bond paper, type lines double space, allow ample space for margins, 1.5 inch on the top and 1 inch on the left, right, and bottom margins. On the first page, type your name on the left-hand corner of the first page. Below your name, type the date. Below the date, time the slug line of the articles. Type the draft on the right-hand corner. Start typing the text halfway down the page, leaving a half of the page blank for the editor's comments. Indent all paragraphs using 5 to 7 spaces only. Treat all paragraphs as complete units. Do not separate lines of a paragraph, especially if only one or two lines are left on the page. At the bottom of the page, if there is a continuation, type more. On the succeeding pages, type the slug line and the page number on the top right-hand corner of the page. Here's an example. Next, continue the story 5 spaces down from the slug line and page number. If the story will not end on the page, type more at the bottom. If the story will end on the page, type end at the bottom of the page. Alright, so to finish up, do you now get the idea on how to write any story? If you have realized that it isn't easy as it looks, you're right. Aside from having to inform the readers, the news writer should also find a way to make the report accurate, interesting, and appealing to the intended readers. Here are my references. Thank you so much. Let's all have a fruitful semester.